You keep what as a companion species? Ambassador Zixtal's upper respiratory membrane fluttered in obvious distress, all four of their crystalline eyes dilating to maximum aperture. A cat, I repeated, trying not to laugh at the alien diplomat's reaction. You know, just a regular house cat. Her name's Princess Murderbritches. The ambassador's translator crackled as it attempted to process this information, eventually spitting out a series of high-pitched whistles that I assumed was the Arxian equivalent of, "What the actual fuck?" I should probably back up a bit here. My name's Sarah Chen, and I somehow ended up being humanity's first official pet liaison to the Galactic Confederation. Not exactly the career path I had in mind when I got my degree in xenobiology, but here we are. Turns out, when you're the only human who can explain why we voluntarily share our homes with predatory creatures without having an aneurysm, you get volunteered for some pretty weird diplomatic duties. The whole situation started about 6 months ago when the Confederation finally decided to establish formal relations with Earth. Everything was going great until one of their cultural research teams started reviewing our social media feeds. Do you have any idea how many cat videos are uploaded every single day? Neither do I, but apparently it was enough to cause a minor diplomatic crisis. But they have razor-sharp retractable claws, Zixtal was saying now, their crystalline form shifting through various shades of agitated purple. And they're obligate carnivores, with murder mittens. How do you sleep at night? I sighed, reaching for my datapad. Look, let me show you some videos. This might help explain— No! All four of the ambassador's arms shot up in protest. No more videos. The research team already traumatized half the diplomatic corps with what they called cute compilation reels. We saw one of these cats knock a drinking vessel off a high surface while maintaining direct eye contact with its supposed owner. Yeah, they do that, I admitted, trying to keep a straight face. But they also purr and cuddle and they emit sonic vibrations while plotting violence. Zixtal's crystal matrix was now cycling through colors faster than a disco ball at a rave. And you encourage this behavior. Right about then, because the universe has an absolutely savage sense of timing, Princess Murderbritches herself decided to make an appearance. She sauntered into my home office like she owned the place, which, let's be honest, she basically did. Her fluffy black tail held high like a victory flag. The ambassador went absolutely still, which I'd learned was the Arxian equivalent of a deer in headlights. Princess Murderbritches naturally took this as an invitation. "Oh no," I muttered, watching as my cat zeroed in on our alien visitor with predatory focus. "Princess, don't you dare! Too late!" With the graceful precision that only cats possess, Princess Murderbritches launched herself directly onto the ambassador's lap. Or what passed for a lap when you're dealing with a crystalline being who's basically a sentient quartz formation with limbs. What followed was perhaps the most undignified sound I've ever heard a diplomatic representative make. Somewhere between a wind chime in a hurricane and a dial-up modem having an existential crisis. "Human Chen!" Zixtal's voice modulator was practically shorting out. "Your miniature apex predator is vibrating on me!" "She's purring," I explained, trying desperately not to giggle. "It means she likes you." "That is not reassuring." But I noticed the ambassador's crystals had stopped their panicked color shifting, settling into a somewhat bemused shade of blue-green. Princess Murderbritches had started doing that thing where she kneads her paws, looking up at Zixtal with half-closed eyes of pure contentment. Is this normal behavior?" The ambassador's voice had dropped to what they probably thought was a whisper, but still came out like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Absolutely. She's claiming you as her new favorite furniture. It's quite an honor, actually." "I see." Zixtal's upper right arm slowly, cautiously, extended toward Princess Murderbritches. "And if I were to, perhaps, attempt physical contact?" "Go ahead. Just scratch behind her ears. Yeah, right there." The sound that emerged from my cat was her absolute best industrial-strength purr, the one that made my whole desk vibrate when she was really happy. The ambassador's crystalline structure actually harmonized with it, creating an oddly beautiful resonance. "Fascinating," Zixtal murmured. "The vibrations. They're actually quite pleasant when synchronized with my natural frequency." "Just wait until she falls asleep on you," I said with a grin. "The purring gets even better." "Falls asleep?" The ambassador's colors shifted to a worried lavender. "You mean I will be required to maintain this position until your predator chooses to release me from service?" "Welcome to cat ownership, Ambassador. We're all basically just very sophisticated furniture." What followed was 3 hours of what I can only describe as a xenobiological comedy of errors. Princess Murderbritches refused to leave her new crystalline perch. and Zixtal was too terrified of offending either the cat or me to do anything about it. We conducted the rest of our diplomatic meeting with my cat occasionally stretching, repositioning herself, and demanding additional pets from both of us. By the end of it, I had successfully negotiated Earth's first interstellar pet trade agreement, with about 50 pages of safety protocols and liability waivers. And Zixtal had somehow become Princess Murderbritch's newest devoted servant. "I still don't understand," the ambassador said as they prepared to leave, now sporting several cat hairs that sparkled against their crystalline surface like tiny decorative additions. "Your species took one of the most efficient predators on your planet, miniaturized it, and decided to share your dwellings with it. And then you gave it a title of nobility and the surname Murderbritches." "Actually," I corrected, "the cats pretty much decided all that on their own. We just went along with it because they're cute and the purring feels nice." Zixtal's colors did another quick cycle through their stress spectrum before settling on a resigned sort of pink. "Your species is completely insane. You do realize this, yes?" "Says the species that's basically sentient crystal wind chimes," I countered with a grin. "Point taken." The ambassador gave Princess Murderbritches one final careful pat. "I shall inform the Confederation that humans are to be classified as a Class 4 paradox species, with a special notation about their inexplicable ability to domesticate predators through sheer audacity." "That seems fair." "I will also be requesting a permanent addition to my diplomatic quarters," Zixtal added, trying to sound casual and failing miserably. "For cultural research purposes, of course." "Of course," I agreed solemnly. "I'll have the adoption paperwork ready for your next visit. I know a great shelter that has some lovely void cats that would look amazing against your crystal structure." I have no idea what a void cat is, but I find myself both terrified and intrigued. The ambassador's colors shifted to a warm, pleased orange. "Truly, humans are the most bewildering species we have ever encountered. You face the deadliest creatures on your world and think, 'Ah yes, I shall give this one treats and a ridiculous name.'" "Wait until I tell you about dog people," I said with a wicked grin. The ambassador's translator actually gave up at that point and just emitted a long series of error codes. 2 weeks later, the Galactic Confederation officially welcomed Earth into their alliance, with a special addendum noting that while humans were technically a Class 3 spacefaring civilization, we had achieved Class 7 levels of weaponized absurdity through our relationship with domesticated predators. They also instituted a new requirement that all diplomatic stations be equipped with cat furniture and premium-grade catnip, for security purposes. As for Princess Murderbritches, she now holds the distinction of being the first Earth feline to receive an official Galactic Confederation diplomatic title, Senior Ambassador of Interspecies Per Relations. The position comes with an unlimited supply of treats and a very confused crystalline being who visits regularly to serve as her favorite piece of furniture. All in all, not bad for a rescue cat from Brooklyn. I've since been promoted to Chief of Xenodiplomacy and Feline Affairs, which basically means I get paid to explain to various alien species why humans think it's perfectly normal to sleep in the same room as tiny murder machines. It's a living. Just don't ask me about the time we had to explain hamsters to the hive mind of Betelgeuse. Some diplomatic incidents are better left classified. "You keep what other creatures as companions?" Ambassador Zixtal's crystalline form flickered with what I'd come to recognize as their humans are insane frequency. "Dogs," I repeated, watching as Princess Murderbritches lounged regally on her dedicated crystalline perch, a gift from the ambassador after their last visit. You know, like cats, but generally bigger, usually friendlier, and with an enthusiasm for life that borders on religious devotion. The ambassador's translator worked overtime before producing what sounded like a wind chime having a stroke. Larger than the murder machines? Oh, much larger in some cases. Some breeds can weigh as much as a small Archean crystal cluster. Princess Murderbritches chose this moment to yawn widely, showing off her impressive array of teeth. The ambassador's colors shifted to what I now recognized as their remembering trauma palette. And these dogs, they are also predators? Descended from wolves, actually, pack hunters. But we bred them to be friendly. I added quickly, seeing Zixtal's form starting to vibrate in distress. "They're really very sweet. Most of them just want to love everyone and everything." "You took pack hunters and bred them to be friendly?" "Well, yeah. We needed help hunting and protecting our settlements, so we made a deal with wolves. They helped us, we helped them, and over thousands of years of selective breeding, we ended up with everything from Great Danes to Chihuahuas." The ambassador's translator gave up entirely at this point, and just started playing what sounded like elevator music. "Look," I said, reaching for my datapad. "Let me show you some pictures." "No! The cat videos were traumatic enough!" All four of Zixtal's arms waved in protest. "I still have nightmares about the one where the tiny predator was riding on the cleaning drone." That was pretty cute though, right? The ambassador's colors shifted to what might have been embarrassed agreement. "Perhaps. But you cannot distract me with adorable murder machines this time. We must discuss this dog situation. The Confederation is very concerned about your species' apparent compulsion to befriend every dangerous creature you encounter." "Oh, you haven't even heard about horses yet." The sound Zixtal made could have shattered windows in a lower octave. "Perhaps we should focus on one species at a time," they suggested weakly. "Tell me about these dogs. What purpose do they serve in modern human society?" "Well, that's the interesting part. They serve all kinds of purposes. Some help us find lost people, or detect illegal substances, or assist people with disabilities. Others are just companions. Some help on farms, some compete in sports. You have weaponized their hunting instincts for your own purposes?" The ambassador's tone suggested they weren't sure whether to be impressed or terrified. "Not weaponized, exactly. More like collaborated with. Here, let me introduce you to someone." I pressed the intercom button on my desk. "Hey Jake, could you bring Max in?" The door opened, and my assistant walked in with Max, my sister's golden retriever who was staying with me for the week. Max took one look at the crystalline ambassador, and immediately assumed they were his new best friend in the entire universe. What followed was perhaps the most chaotic first contact scenario in galactic history. Picture, if you will, a dignified crystalline being who had just barely come to terms with cats, suddenly faced with 80 pounds of pure, unbridled canine joy. Max's tail was wagging so hard his entire back end was swaying, and his face was split in what humans recognize as a happy doggy smile, but what probably looked like a terrifying display of teeth to our alien visitor. "Human Chen!" Zixtal's voice modulator crackled with panic. "Your larger predator appears to be malfunctioning. Its rear appendage is oscillating at an alarming frequency." "That's wagging. It means he's happy to meet you." "That is not reassuring." But before either of us could say anything else, Max had already bounded over to the ambassador and sat down, offering his paw in what had to be the galaxy's first interspecies handshake. The ambassador stared at the extended paw like it might explode. What is it doing?" "He wants to shake hands. It's a greeting. Go ahead, it's perfectly safe." Watching a crystalline being tentatively shake paws with an enthusiastic golden retriever is now officially my favorite moment in diplomatic history. Max, of course, took this as permission to proceed with standard golden retriever protocol, attempting to make friends through sheer force of personality. "The large predator is pressing its face against my lower extremities," Zixtal reported, their colors shifting through confusion to something almost like amusement. "And the oscillations are intensifying. He wants you to pet him," I explained, trying not to laugh at the scene before me. Princess Murderbritches, who had been watching this whole interaction with typical feline disdain, chose this moment to jump down from her perch and saunter over. What happened next defied every known law of physics and several local ordinances. Max, overjoyed to see his feline housemate, immediately tried to include her in the friendship circle. Princess Murderbritches, who normally treated Max with aristocratic tolerance, decided that the ambassador was her alien and no one else's. The resulting standoff involved a lot of tail wagging, dignified feline glaring, and one very confused alien diplomat who was now somehow serving as territory in an interspecies negotiation. "Is this normal?" Zixtal asked, their crystalline form now sporting both cat hair and dog drool. "Oh yeah, totally normal. They're actually being pretty well behaved. Wait until you see what happens when Max discovers squirrels." I am afraid to ask, but what is a squirrel? Just then, as if summoned by the word itself, a squirrel appeared on the windowsill outside my office. Max's reaction was, shall we say, enthusiastic. The next few minutes were pure chaos as 80 pounds of golden retriever attempted to phase through the window through sheer force of will. Princess Murderbritches launched into her best impression of a furry-guided missile, and Ambassador Zixtal's translator gave up entirely and started playing what sounded suspiciously like the Benny Hill theme. "Explain!" The ambassador's voice had reached a pitch that probably had dogs barking 3 counties over. "Well," I said, trying to maintain some semblance of diplomatic decorum while restraining an overexcited dog. "Squirrels are small, tree-dwelling rodents that both cats and dogs find fascinating for different reasons. Dogs want to chase them because of their hunting instincts, and cats, well, cats just want to murder them. Your companion predators wish to hunt even smaller predators? It's like a recursion of violence. More like a food chain conga line, I suggested helpfully. The ambassador's colors shifted to what I could only describe as existential crisis mauve. Human Chen, I believe I need to submit an addendum to my previous report about your species. Oh? Yes. You are not merely a Class 4 paradox species. You are clearly operating on a level of chaos that our classification system was not designed to accommodate. They paused, watching as Max finally calmed down and flopped onto his back, requesting belly rubs. You take apex predators, make them your companions, and then watch them attempt to hunt other creatures for entertainment. Don't forget that we also dress them up in cute costumes sometimes. The sound Zixtal made could only be described as a crystalline blue screen of death. I believe, they said finally, after their translator had rebooted, that I will need to requisition additional research funding, and perhaps some of those belly rubs for further study. For diplomatic purposes, of course. Of course, I agreed solemnly, watching as both Max and Princess Murderbritches vied for the ambassador's attention. Should I prepare the dog adoption paperwork as well? One catastrophically adorable predator at a time, Human Chen. Though, perhaps you could send me more of those cute compilation reels? The diplomatic corps has developed quite an addiction to them. We had to establish a support group. And that's how the Galactic Confederation ended up with a dedicated terrestrial companion animal appreciation society, complete with monthly meetings where crystalline beings gather to watch cat videos and dog vines while trying to understand how humans turned apex predators into professional pillow warmers. As for Max and Princess Murderbritches, they now hold joint diplomatic credentials as Chief Officers of Interspecies Chaos and Cuddles. The position comes with unlimited treats, belly rubs on demand, and a growing fan club of alien diplomats who are simultaneously terrified and enchanted by Earth's domesticated predators. I've had to add professional pet video curator to my job description. The Arxians are particularly fond of videos featuring dogs meeting babies for the first time. Something about the gentle protective instincts of a former apex predator really resonates with them. Just don't tell them about reptile owners yet. I don't think the Confederation is ready to learn about people who keep tiny dragons as pets. Though I have to admit, I'm looking forward to explaining bearded dragons to them, especially the ones who wear tiny hats. Please tell me you're joking, Ambassador Zixtal said, their crystalline structure vibrating at what I'd come to recognize as their dealing with humans-induced stress frequency. You keep miniature dragons as pets? I glanced down at Spike, my bearded dragon, who was currently sporting a tiny top hat and lounging on his heated rock like a scaly Victorian gentleman. Princess Murderbritches watched from her elevated perch with her usual aristocratic disdain, while Max dozed nearby, occasionally thumping his tail when he heard the word dragon. Well, they're not actually dragons, I explained. They're reptiles, specifically bearded dragons. The name is more of a marketing thing. But it has spikes and scales, and it's currently wearing what appears to be formal attire. The hat was on sale, I said defensively, and he looks distinguished in it. Spike bobbed his head in what I chose to interpret as agreement, causing his tiny hat to tilt rakishly to one side. The ambassador's colors shifted through several shades of disbelief. Let me ensure I understand this correctly, Zixtal said, their translator struggling to maintain a professional tone. Your species has domesticated small predatory felines, pack-hunting canines, and scaled reptilian creatures, and then you put tiny clothing on them? Don't forget the hamsters, I added helpfully. The ambassador's form flickered in what might have been a crystalline eye twitch. I'm afraid to ask, but what is a hamster? Just then, the distinct sound of a running wheel echoed from the corner of my office. Zixtal's upper appendages all swiveled toward the noise. That would be Professor Chaos, I explained, gesturing to the elaborate hamster habitat on my bookshelf. He's a hamster, specifically a Syrian hamster. They're small, fuzzy rodents that we keep as pets. You named a small prey animal Professor Chaos? Well, yeah. Have you seen what hamsters do to toilet paper rolls? The name fits. As if on cue, Professor Chaos emerged from his hideout, stuffed his face with an improbable amount of sunflower seeds, and proceeded to demonstrate exactly why hamsters are simultaneously the most adorable and most chaotic pets in existence. The ambassador watched in fascinated horror as the tiny rodent performed what could only be described as an Olympic-level routine on his wheel, somehow managing to run, stuff more seeds in his already full cheeks, and plot world domination all at the same time. Its face appears to be expanding, Zixtal observed, their colors shifting to a concerned chartreuse. Those are his cheek pouches. Hamsters can store food in them for later. They can fit an impressive amount in there. But why? Evolution, mostly. But we think it's cute, so we give them treats to watch them stuff their faces. The ambassador's translator crackled before spitting out what sounded like the Arxian equivalent of, "What is wrong with your species?" Professor Chaos chose this moment to demonstrate his patented running wheel backflip, a move that probably violated several laws of physics. Princess Murderbritches, who had been pretending to ignore everything, suddenly took great interest in the hamster's acrobatics. "No," I said firmly, recognizing the look in my cat's eyes. "Professor Chaos is not for hunting. We've talked about this." The ambassador's colors cycled rapidly. "You keep prey animals in close proximity to predators? And expect the predators to not prey?" "Pretty much, yeah. It's all about proper introductions and training. Plus, Professor Chaos has a secure habitat. And despite Princess Murderbritch's occasional plotting, they've actually become quite good neighbors." As if to prove my point, Professor Chaos paused in his wheel, made direct eye contact with Princess Murderbritches, and proceeded to stuff his face with even more seeds in what I can only describe as a power move. "Fascinating," Zixtal murmured, their form shifting to a more scholarly hue. "Your species has somehow created an ecosystem where predator and prey coexist in a hierarchy based not on natural order, but on cuteness? More or less. Though I should probably warn you about snake owners before you update your report." The sound that emerged from the ambassador's translator might have been a scream, but it came out more like a wind chime in a tornado. "Snakes? You keep snakes as companions?" "Oh yeah, ball pythons are actually really gentle. Some people keep them as emotional support animals. They're like living stress balls that occasionally want to eat mice." Zixtal's colors shifted through every shade of panic in the visible spectrum. "You keep constrictors as emotional support? Would it help if I told you people put tiny hats on them too?" The ambassador's translator gave up entirely at this point and just started playing calming ocean sounds. "Human Chen," Zixtal said finally, after their systems had rebooted. "I believe I need to propose a new classification for your species. You are clearly operating on a level of reality that defies our current understanding of sentient behavior." "Is this about the people who keep jumping spiders as pets? Because I haven't even gotten to that part yet." The sound that emerged from the ambassador could have shattered windows in the next county. Just then, Professor Chaos decided to demonstrate his newest trick, hamster parkour. Using his wheel as a launching pad, he executed a perfect backflip, landed on his platform, and immediately began stuffing more seeds into his already full cheeks. Princess Murderbritches watched this display with an expression that somehow combined professional respect with predatory calculation. Max, who had woken up from his nap, wagged his tail enthusiastically at the performance. Spike adjusted his tiny top hat and bobbed his head in apparent approval. "Your dwelling," Zixtal observed, "is like a miniature zoo where all the inhabitants have formed some sort of chaotic alliance." "Pretty much," I agreed. "Though you should see what happens when I bring out the laser pointer." "The what?" Before I could explain, a small red dot appeared on the wall. Jake, my assistant, had apparently decided this was the perfect moment for a demonstration. What followed can only be described as controlled chaos. Princess Murderbritches launched into full hunter mode. Max bounced around with enthusiastic confusion, and Professor Chaos paused his seed stuffing to watch the show. Spike merely adjusted his hat and continued basking, like a proper gentleman. The ambassador's colors shifted through several new shades that I'm pretty sure they invented on the spot. "You use directed light as entertainment for your predators?" "Well, when you put it like that, it sounds weird. We just think it's funny to watch cats try to catch the uncatchable." "Human Chen," Zixtal said solemnly, their form settling into what I recognized as their making an official declaration configuration. "I hereby propose that Earth be designated as a Class O paradox zone, where the normal laws of predator-prey relationships have been suspended in favor of what can only be described as adorable anarchy." "That seems fair," I agreed, watching as Princess Murderbritches attempted to climb the wall to catch the elusive red dot. "Though you might want to wait until after I tell you about people who keep otters as pets." The ambassador's translator made a sound like a dial-up modem having an existential crisis. "Perhaps," they suggested weakly. "We should schedule another meeting for that discussion." after I have had time to process the concept of humans keeping scaled creatures in tiny formal wear. Spike bobbed his head again, his top hat now at a jaunty angle that would have made any Victorian gentleman proud. And that's how Earth became the first and only planet in the Galactic Confederation to have an official chaos classification in the xenobiological records. The accompanying report included several pages of footnotes about tiny hats, laser pointers, and the inexplicable human tendency to befriend anything that could potentially eat them. Princess Murderbritches, Max Spike, and Professor Chaos were all granted honorary positions on the newly formed Committee for Understanding Terrestrial Pet Paradoxes. The position mainly involves being themselves, while various alien diplomats try to understand why humans find their behavior endearing. As for me, I've had to add interspecies fashion consultant to my growing list of job titles. Apparently, several other alien species have become interested in tiny hats for their own companion creatures. Just wait until they find out about pet costume contests. Human Chen, Ambassador Zixtal's voice had the carefully measured tone of someone trying very hard to maintain their composure. Please explain why there is a small aquatic predator stealing objects from my diplomatic pouch. I looked over to where River, my sister's pet otter, was indeed gleefully ransacking the ambassador's belongings. The small creature had already amassed quite a collection of shiny crystalline data chips, which she was now arranging in what appeared to be order of sparkle factor. That would be River, I explained, trying not to laugh as the otter did a happy little dance with her newfound treasures. She's staying with me while my sister's on vacation. Otters really like shiny things. And you keep these creatures as companions? The ambassador's colors shifted through various shades of bewilderment. These aquatic thieves? Well, my sister does. She runs a wildlife rehabilitation center. River was rescued as a pup and couldn't be released back into the wild. She's actually quite well behaved, for an otter. As if to prove me wrong, River chose that moment to discover that crystalline beings make excellent slides. Before either of us could react, she had scrambled up Zixtal's back and was using their smooth surface as a personal water park, chittering with joy the entire time. Princess Murderbritches watched this display from her elevated perch with an expression that somehow combined deeply offended with secretly impressed. Max wagged his tail enthusiastically, clearly wanting to join in, but restraining himself due to size differences. Spike adjusted his tiny top hat, now accompanied by a matching monocle, and bobbed his head in what looked suspiciously like approval. Professor Chaos paused his wheel-running marathon just long enough to stuff more seeds in his cheeks, apparently stress-eating at the sight of the chaos. I am being used as a recreational facility by a small aquatic mammal, Zixtal observed, their translator struggling to convey the appropriate mix of dignity and distress. This was not covered in my diplomatic training. If it helps, she only does that with people she likes, I offered. She's basically adopted you into her family now. That is, not as reassuring as you seem to think it is. The ambassador's colors shifted to a resigned sort of blue as River continued her sliding adventure. Though I must admit, the sensation is not entirely unpleasant, like a very energetic massage. Just then, my office door opened and Jake poked his head in. Sorry to interrupt, but the Centaurian delegation is here for their scheduled introduction to Earth pets. Should I send them in? I looked at the scene before me. River using the ambassador as a water slide, Princess Murderbritches in full judgmental loaf mode, Max wagging his entire back end in anticipation of new friends, Spike looking distinguished in his tiny formal wear, and Professor Chaos attempting to fit what appeared to be his own body weight in sunflower seeds into his cheeks. Perfect timing, I said. Send them in. The Centaurians, it should be noted, resemble nothing so much as sentient bonsai trees with glowing leaves. They entered my office with all the dignity befitting their status as one of the oldest species in the Confederation. That dignity lasted approximately 3.5 seconds. River, delighted by the new audience, immediately abandoned her sliding activities to investigate whether glowing leaves might be fun to collect. Princess Murderbritches, sensing an opportunity for chaos, chose this moment to demonstrate her patented knock-things-off high surfaces technique with the ambassador's carefully arranged data chips. Max, overcome with joy at the presence of new potential friends, forgot all his training and proceeded to attempt to make friends through sheer enthusiasm. Human Chen! The lead Centaurian's translator crackled with alarm. Why is the aquatic creature attempting to harvest our bioluminescence? Oh, don't worry about River, I said cheerfully. She just thinks your leaves are pretty. She probably won't try to add them to her collection. Probably. The concept of probably is not reassuring. Another Centaurian chimed in. their leaves flickering in distress as River chittered hopefully at them. Ambassador Zixtal, who had somehow become the voice of experience in these matters, attempted to intervene. I assure you, esteemed colleagues, that while humans and their companion animals may seem chaotic, there is a certain charm to their madness. Right on cue, Professor Chaos executed a perfect backflip in his wheel, launched himself onto his platform, and proceeded to pose dramatically with his seed-stuffed cheeks. Spike adjusted his monocle to get a better view of the performance. The Centaurian's leaves began strobing in what I assumed was either panic or amazement. Possibly both. You see, I explained, Earth's pets each have their own unique personalities and quirks. River likes collecting shiny things and sliding down smooth surfaces. Princess Murderbritches enjoys knocking things over and judging everyone's life choices. Max wants to be friends with everything that moves. Spike is our resident gentleman, and Professor Chaos, well, he's living his best life. And your species encourages these behaviors? The lead Centaurian's translator struggled to convey their mix of horror and fascination. Encourages, documents, and shares on social media, I confirmed. Speaking of which, would you like to see some videos of otters juggling rocks? Or maybe cats riding Roombas? I have a whole playlist. The sound that emerged from multiple translators simultaneously could have been used as experimental music. Perhaps, Ambassador Zixtal suggested diplomatically, their colors shifting to what I now recognized as their damage control palette. We should start with something simpler, like the videos of dogs greeting their humans after being apart for 5 minutes? An excellent suggestion, I agreed, pulling up my carefully curated collection of reunion videos, though we should probably warn them about the happy crying. The what? Oh yeah, dogs get so happy to see their humans that sometimes they cry. It's really sweet. The Centaurian's leaves began flickering in a pattern that suggested their universal translators were having collective nervous breakdowns. Just then, River discovered that glowing Centaurian leaves created interesting patterns in water. What followed was a masterclass in interspecies chaos as she attempted to create art using her splash pool and the reflections of our increasingly nervous visitors. Princess Murderbritches, not to be outdone, chose this moment to demonstrate her hunting prowess by pouncing on the moving light patterns. Max, believing this to be a new game, joined in with enthusiastic bouncing. Spike remained dignified in his tiny formal wear, though I swear I saw him wink at Professor Chaos, who had paused his seed hoarding to watch the show. I believe, the lead Centaurian said finally, their leaves now pulsing in a surprisingly rhythmic pattern, that we understand why Earth has been designated as a Class O paradox zone. Your companion animals appear to operate outside the normal laws of rational behavior. Oh, this is nothing, I said cheerfully. Wait until you meet the people who keep sugar gliders. They're like tiny flying squirrels in pajamas. The collective sound from all translators in the room could have been used to tune orchestras, and that's how the Galactic Confederation ended up establishing the Institute for Understanding Terrestrial Companion Paradoxes, a dedicated research facility where alien scientists attempt to understand why humans find chaos adorable. The facility's logo, designed by River using splashed water patterns and approved by Princess Murderbritches knocking it off a table, features all our pets in tiny formal wear. They've also had to create a new diplomatic protocol specifically for dealing with Earth pets. It includes such guidelines as, all diplomatic pouches must be otter-proofed, and expect the unexpected, then expect it to be wearing a tiny hat. As for me, I've been promoted to Director of Interspecies Chaos Management and Tiny Hat Distribution. The position comes with an unlimited budget for pet accessories, and a standing order to warn the Confederation before introducing them to any new species of Earth pets. I'm thinking of showing them axolotls next. Who doesn't love a smiling salamander?